The following content is for entertainment purposes only. But hey, if it's not true, then why did YouTube shadow ban me? Vince McMahon is not just a billionaire wrestling mogul. He's not just a ruthless businessman. He is, and always has been, a sexual predator who built WWE as his personal kingdom of control, exploitation, and degradation. The Janelle Grant lawsuit, that's not some shocking new revelation. That's just the latest chapter in a decades-long history of sex, power, and cover-ups. Vince McMahon has spent his entire career getting away with the kind of things that would land anyone else in prison for life. And the only reason he's been able to do it? Because wrestling was his playground. And everyone was too scared, too dependent on his money, are too deep in the filth themselves, to even try to stop him. But now, the walls are closing in. And when you step back and look at the full picture of what this man has done, what he's been accused of, and what he's gotten away with, it becomes undeniable. Vince McMahon is one of the most protected predators in entertainment history. Janelle Grant is finally pulling the curtain back on something that has been happening in WWE for decades. Powerful men using their influence to control, abuse, and discard people like trash. She says Vince coerced her into a sexual relationship, used her as his personal sex slave, forced her to make explicit content, and kept her under his control with threats and manipulation. This isn't just some random workplace harassment lawsuit. This is sex trafficking. And she isn't just naming Vince. She's naming John Laurinaitis. And according to reports, the unnamed wrestler in her lawsuit is none other than Brock Lesnar. This is what WWE has always been behind the curtain. A boys' club of predators run by a man who treats people like disposable toys. And if you think this is new, if you think this is just some Me Too era attack on Vince, you have no idea how deep this rabbit hole goes. Let's go back to the Ring Boy scandal in the early 90s. If you don't know this story, buckle up. Because it's one of the most horrifying things WWE has ever swept under the rug. Multiple young boys, some as young as 13 and 14, worked as ring attendants, helping set up WWE shows. And multiple WWE officials, including Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, and Mel Phillips, were accused of sexually abusing these boys. These were Vince's inner circle guys, his right-hand men. And when the allegations came out, Patterson quietly resigned, only to be brought back later, not much later either. Garvin and Phillips disappeared, and Vince, he played dumb, acted like he had no idea what was going on under his own roof. Do you believe that? Because I don't. This is the same Vince McMahon who has controlled every single detail of WWE for 40 years. The man who micromanages everything. The man who knows everything about everyone. And we're supposed to believe he had no clue that his closest executives were preying on underage boys. Get real. And it didn't stop there. Vince's pattern of abuse and cover-ups continued for decades. Let's talk about Ashley Massaro, WWE's Golden Girl in the mid-2000s. The Diva Search winner, the Playboy cover girl, the rising star. Until she got sent on a USO tour for WWE to visit the troops. And what happened? She was drugged and raped by U.S. military personnel. She came back broken, traumatized, desperate for help. And do you know what Vince McMahon told her? Shut your mouth. That's right. The man who loves to boast about WWE's patriotism and honoring the troops told a rape victim to stay silent because it might hurt WWE's relationship with the military. But before that, before he even gave her that heartless, disgusting order, Vince was already making her life hell. He was relentlessly harassing her in hotel rooms at night, pressuring her to sleep with him. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't a one-time thing either. This was a pattern. Constant, aggressive, inescapable. Ashley was so disturbed by it that she ran to her boyfriend at the time, Paul London, just to get away from Vince's advances. She had to find safety with another wrestler because the boss of WWE, the man controlling her career, was stalking her like a predator. And London has said it himself. He saw how obsessed Vince was with Ashley. He knew something was off. But what could anyone do? It was Vince McMahon. He had all the power. And look what happened to Ashley years later. She died at 39 from suicide. You really think all those years of abuse, manipulation, and being treated like garbage in WWE had nothing to do with it? This company destroys people. It eats them alive. And Vince, he's the man at the top, pulling the strings the entire time. And that brings us to what he put on TV. Because if you really want to understand just how depraved Vince McMahon is, look at the things he scripted for his own show. Look at what he made women do. Trish Stratus barking like a dog on all fours in the middle of the ring, stripped down to her bra and panties while Vince stood over her like some sadistic king. This wasn't just an angle. This wasn't just entertainment. This was Vince living out his own sick fantasies in front of millions of people. Tori Wilson, Sable, Dawn Marie, forced into degrading, sexualized segments that had nothing to do with wrestling, but everything to do with what Vince McMahon got off on. And then, the most disgusting idea he ever came up with. Vince McMahon actually pitched a storyline where he would be the father of his daughter Stephanie's baby. Let that sink in. This man, her own father, wanted to create a fake incest angle with his real daughter. She was so horrified that she refused. But even then, Vince didn't stop. He still had her doing borderline incest angles with Shane. Who thinks of this shit? A predator. A predator does. And we haven't even touched the rumors. The bearskin rug stories. The whispers of what wrestlers had to do behind closed doors to become top guys. The things that were always said about Pat Patterson luring young talent to his hotel room to watch the moonlight. The stories of Vince controlling his talent, not just physically and financially, but mentally and sexually. This is who Vince McMahon is. This is what WWE has always been. And for decades, he's gotten away with it. But now, the cracks are starting to show. Janelle Grant's lawsuit is the biggest legal threat he's ever faced. His powerful allies are starting to drop him. The mainstream media is finally catching on. And the fans, the ones who used to worship him, they're waking up. Because when you put it all together, when you really connect the dots, you see the truth about Vince McMahon. He's not just a sleazy businessman. He's not just a manipulative promoter. He's a predator. And if justice is real, if karma is real, his time is running out.